The trees whispered in a language that only the wind could understand. They stood tall and glowing with faint emerald veins under their bark. Birds with crystal wings flew overhead, singing notes that didn't exist on Earth. This was the Forbiddens. Jungle of Lorthian Prime, marked in every galactic map as a sacred no-entry zone. But he didn't care. Because humans never listened when danger whispered in beauty's voice. Jake Carter wiped sweat from his brow and kept moving. His boots sank into moss that glowed with a strange shimmer. He was shirtless, bleeding lightly from a scrape on his arm, and smiling like a boy on summer break. He didn't know he was being watched from above, from the shadows, from the trees that hated intruders. She crouched on a high branch, her golden eyes locked on him. Her name was Rixica, a huntress of the Yokari bloodline, and she had been tracking this human for hours. Her armor was black leather and void steel, fitted for agility and silence. Her ears twitched as she studied him. No fear, no armor, no scanner. Just muscle and madness walking straight into the most sacred death pool of her kind. The elders had warned her. If a human touches the pool of echoes, the law demanded execution, not exile, not trial, just immediate death. But this male had seen something in the trees, something only a native soul should be able to sense. That disturbed her more than his trespass. He reached the clearing where sunlight poured through a circle of leaves above. The water was turquoise, glowing faintly. Like liquid crystal, steam rose from it in soft clouds. Signs and alien script stood at the edge, saying, "Sacred waters, no entry." A second sign had been planted by a human explorer long ago. It simply read, "Warning, do not jump." Jake looked at both signs, then laughed. She read his lips from the branch as he muttered something. "I always wanted to do this." He sighed and stepped back with a wild grin. Rixica's breath caught as he sprinted toward the edge. She leapt from the tree to stop him, but she was too late. Jake launched into the air and cannonballed into the pool with a huge splash. The sound echoed like thunder through the trees. The water lit up beneath him in strange rings. He surfaced, laughing and rubbing his face. "Best swim ever," he shouted without knowing the forest had already gone still. Rixica stood at the edge, her tail swaying with restrained rage. She didn't speak, didn't move, just stared at him. Jake froze in the water as he noticed her. His smile slowly faded as he saw her expression. She looked like a goddess made of danger and thunder. Her ears were tall and alert. Her fingers twitched near her dagger. "I didn't mean any harm," he said. "Just a swim, no offense." His voice was calm, but his heart raced. He could feel the change in the air. The warmth of the pool turned cold. The jungle seemed to press in around him. The laughter in the leaves had stopped. She walked into the water slowly, each step careful, deliberate. The pool responded to her presence with soft pulses of light. Her eyes glowed faintly as she stared at him. "You broke sacred law," she said finally. "Do you even know what this place is?" Jake blinked. "I just thought it looked cool. I didn't know it was holy." She kept walking until the water reached her waist. She was close enough now for him to see the symbols carved on her armor. Warrior marks, kill counts, clan oath. "You touched the waters of our ancestors," she said. "Now the jungle itself may mark you." Jake looked around. Something had changed in the leaves. The trees were no longer green. They were slowly turning red. The pool was glowing beneath him with flickers of gold. He swallowed hard. "Is that bad?" Rixica didn't answer. She reached for her belt and pulled out a curved device. Not a weapon, a tracker. She held it up and scanned his body. The device beeped twice and turned black. Her eyes widened. "You activated the bond," she said. "That shouldn't be possible. Only natives can do that." Jake's face went pale. "Wait, what bond? What does that mean?" Rixica didn't blink. Her voice was steady but lower now, like a storm rising over calm waters. "It means the jungle has chosen you," she said. "And now I cannot kill you. I must protect you, or face exile myself." Jake slowly climbed out of the glowing water, his arms shaking slightly and his feet slipping on the mossy rock. His chest rose and fell with every breath as the cold air of the forest clung to his skin. He had thought it would be a joke, a wild moment for the storybooks. But now everything felt wrong. Rixika stood in silence as he stepped onto the bank. Her eyes didn't blink, her muscles didn't relax. She looked like a statue carved by some god of war. The tracker in her hand still glowed faintly with black and gold, a color only seen when a sacred bond had been triggered. Her tail curled. Once, slowly. "You shouldn't be alive," she said. "You shouldn't be marked." Her voice wasn't angry now, it was something else. Curiosity, worry, a little fear. Jake looked at her, confused, then glanced back at the shimmering pool. He didn't understand what the bond meant, but it clearly changed everything. He reached for his shirt near the water's edge and paused. The moss underneath, it was no longer green. It was silver, like the jungle had reacted to his touch. Rixika noticed too. Her pupils narrowed. "The trees are watching you now," she said. "That is not a gift. That is a sentence." Jake's throat tightened. "What kind of sentence?" he asked. She walked toward him, slowly circling him, her boots making no sound on the soft ground. "You are now part of the echo," she said. "You carry its pulse. If you leave this jungle, it will follow. If you die, it will scream." He couldn't believe what he was hearing. The jungle didn't seem like a place that could think. But the glow in the trees and the way the leaves swayed together made it feel alive. Jake had always joked about ancient magic. Now he was standing inside it. Rixika scanned the horizon and raised one finger. A soft chirp echoed in the distance. Something responded. She turned back to Jake. "We don't have time. Once the bond forms, the jungle sends out signals. Other huntresses will come. Not all will honor the rules I do." Jake looked at her, then at the water again. "So what do we do?" She paused for a breath, then replied. "We run. We find the heart root. If the bond is real, the heart root will answer. If it doesn't, I will kill you before the others do. That is mercy compared to what they'll bring." Her words landed like stones. Jake had never thought a forest could be dangerous in this way. He had survived alien war zones and asteroid fires, but this place, this jungle, felt different. Like it judged every breath he took. Rixika turned and walked into the dense trees, not looking back. Jake hesitated, then followed her. The light changed as they moved deeper. The sunlight turned blue through the leaves. Small glowing insects circled his face. He waved them away and kept going. Every now and then, Rixika would raise her hand and signal him to stop. She would crouch, listen, then continue. Her movements were like a dance with the jungle, as if every step she took had been practiced since childhood. Jake did his best to copy her. They walked until they reached a ridge. Below it, the land opened into a valley full of giant roots and waterfalls. In the center stood a tree larger than any he had ever seen. Its bark was black and gold, its branches reached the clouds. Rixika knelt and whispered something. Jake felt his skin tingle. A pulse ran through the ground. The roots moved, slowly. As if breathing, Rixika stood again. "The heart root sees you," she said, "and it is unsure." Jake didn't understand what that meant, but the fact that a tree could be unsure was already terrifying. He stepped forward. The moment his foot touched the soil near the roots, the jungle shivered. A distant roar echoed through the trees. Rixika drew her blade instantly. "They're here," she said. The others felt it. "They come to end what you started." Jake turned to her. "Will you fight them?" She looked at him without flinching. "I don't know, but I will not let you die without a purpose. If the bond chose you, we must learn why before it's too late." Jake felt his legs tremble as the roar echoed again through the glowing jungle. He had no idea what was coming, only that Rixika had gone still. Her blade shimmered faintly in the eerie light. Her breathing was slow, sharp, and steady. She looked like she had already accepted the possibility of death. The heart root behind them pulsed again. Its golden veins flickered through the bark. The roots shifted like they were adjusting themselves. Rixika placed a hand on one of the smaller roots and closed her eyes. Jake watched her lips move silently, as if praying or communicating with something he couldn't see. "I asked for its guidance," she said. "It told me to wait." Jake stepped closer to her. "Wait for what?" he asked. Before she could answer, a shadow passed overhead. Something large moved through the treetops above them. Rixika's eyes flashed open. "They brought a flyer. That means they're serious." The rustling in the canopy grew louder. Birds and animals scattered in every direction. Jake ducked behind a thick vine and peeked through. 3 figures dropped from the sky. All of them wore dark armor, sleeker and more dangerous looking than Rixika's. Each carried a spear that buzzed with energy. The lead warrior stepped forward. Her face was hard and sharp like a blade. Her skin shimmered with light purple markings. "Huntress Rixika," she said. "You were ordered to kill the human if he touched the sacred pool. Why is he breathing?" Rixika didn't answer at first. She stepped forward slowly, shoulders straight, blade still in hand. "He is marked by the bond," Rixika said. The heart root pulsed when he entered the water. He awakened something ancient. The other warriors exchanged glances. The leader narrowed her eyes. "That is impossible. The bond has not chosen anyone in 2 centuries. Rixika nodded once. "And yet, it chose him." Jake stayed quiet behind the vines, but he could hear everything. He felt like a child caught in a game far too dangerous. The lead warrior raised her spear and pointed it at Rixika. "Then you are no longer a huntress. You are a traitor." Rixika lifted her blade slowly. "Then I will fight as one." Before Jake could react, the 2 warriors behind the leader lunged at Rixika. Steel clashed with energy. Sparks flew as the weapons met. Rixika twisted, dodged, and rolled like she was dancing through death. Her blade caught one warrior in the leg. The other slashed at her arm. Blood hit the leaves, but she didn't slow down. Jake wanted to help, but he had no weapon. No training, nothing but his fists and instinct. He grabbed a rock from the ground and waited. When one of the enemy warriors backed up near his hiding spot, Jake sprang forward. He slammed the rock into the back of the warrior's helmet. The armor cracked slightly, and the warrior stumbled. Rixika saw him and shouted, "Run!" But Jake didn't. He dove for the fallen spear and grabbed it. It buzzed in his hand like it was alive. The lead warrior turned toward him, eyes glowing. "You dare touch our weapon?" she hissed. Jake lifted it awkwardly and pointed it at her. "I didn't come here to fight," he said, "but I won't let you hurt her." The weapon hummed louder in his grip. To everyone's shock, its energy shifted from red to gold. The warriors froze. Rixika's mouth opened slightly in disbelief. "That weapon only obeys Yukari blood," she whispered. "You're not supposed to hold it." The lead warrior lowered her spear slowly. "This is not right," she said. "Nothing in our record says a human could link to Yukari steel." Jake didn't understand it either, but the weapon pulsed again, like it had accepted him. Rixika stepped beside him and lowered her blade. "We don't fight anymore," she said. "Now we ask." The jungle around them responded. The glowing plants dimmed slightly, then brightened in a wave. A deep rumble came from beneath the ground. The heartroot was responding again. Rixika turned to the other warriors. "Take this message to the elders. The bond has returned. Not to one of us, but to a human. The lead warrior looked at Jake one more time, then nodded. This is not over. But I will deliver your words. She motioned to the others and took flight. The sound of their wings faded into the trees as they left the sacred valley. Rixika sheathed her blade and turned to Jake. You were never meant to be here, she said. But now you are part of something older than my people. You carry the echo. We must find out why before the jungle takes you completely. The ground beneath Jake's boots vibrated faintly as the warriors vanished into the trees above. He exhaled slowly, gripping the energy spear tighter, the golden hum still pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. Rixika stood next to him, quiet and alert, her eyes on the darkening jungle canopy. Even the leaves seemed to listen now. Birds did not return. No wind moved through the tall branches. Jake had expected relief after the battle, but instead, air had become heavier. He looked at Rixika and asked, "What now?" She didn't answer right away. She stepped toward the heartroot and placed her palm on its bark. Her fingers spread slowly as if trying to feel a message. "The jungle isn't done with you," she said. "It's only just begun." Jake wanted to ask what that meant, but something in her voice made him stay silent. Rixika turned back to him. "We need to travel to the verdant spine," she said. "There's an oracle there who may know what kind of bond was formed in the pool. If she confirms it, the council can't deny your link to the echo." Jake gave a confused shrug. "So we walk?" She nodded. "We walk, but not through the trees. The echo will test us." With that, she pulled a vine aside, revealing a narrow path lined with glowing thorns and pale moss. "This way leads through the roots. It's safer, but not easy." Jake stepped forward without hesitation. The tunnel beneath the jungle felt like another world. Glowing roots hung from the ceiling. Strange plant tendrils moved as they passed. Some recoiled. Others reached toward Jake as if drawn to his presence. Rixika moved ahead with confidence. Jake followed, unsure but determined. After an hour of silence, Jake finally spoke. "Why did you choose not to kill me?" Rixika paused. She didn't turn, but her voice was clear. "Because the jungle chose you. And because you smiled before jumping into death. No Yukari would do that. Only a fool, or someone deeply free." Jake didn't know if it was a compliment or an insult, but somehow it made him grin. The tunnel narrowed ahead. Rixika motioned for him to crouch. He bent low, feeling roots scrape his back. A glowing insect the size of his hand flew past his ear. He flinched but didn't speak. The path opened into a chamber of ancient stone covered in glowing script. A small pool of golden water sat in the center, reflecting the flickering lights above. Rixika walked to the edge and knelt. "This is the spring of memories," she said. "We rest here. But don't drink the water." Jake nodded and sat nearby. He laid the spear beside him and stretched his legs. Every muscle in his body ached. The silence of the chamber felt deep, almost sacred. "Does the jungle ever sleep?" he asked. Rixika shook her head. "It dreams. And sometimes it listens to ours." He leaned against a smooth stone and closed his eyes for a moment. Visions flickered behind his eyelids, trees burning, a glowing figure calling his name. Rixika standing before a throne of vines. He snapped, his eyes open, breathing fast. "Did I just see something?" Rixika opened one eye and looked at him. "The spring of memories pulls thoughts forward," she said. "It shows what you fear, what you are meant to become. The echo reaches through time, and sometimes it touches us too soon." Jake stared at the pool, disturbed by how real the vision had felt. They rested for only a short time. Rixika stood and adjusted her gear. "We're close now," she said. "The verdant spine is just beyond the ridge above this chamber." Jake got to his feet and grabbed the spear. His legs were still tired, but he followed her without a word. The climb up the ridge was steep. Roots jutted out like sharp fingers. Rocks slipped underfoot. Rixika climbed swiftly, barely needing her hands. Jake scrambled behind her, panting but focused. At the top, the jungle opened wide once more. And what lay ahead took his breath away. The verdant spine was not a place, it was a living bridge of trees, woven together by vines that pulsed with life. Suspended above a glowing river, it curved into the distance like a green serpent. Rixika pointed across. The oracle waits on the other side. We step carefully now. Jake swallowed hard and stepped onto the living bridge beside her. The vines trembled under his weight, then steadied. Together, they began the crossing, unaware of the eyes watching them from below, waiting for them to fall or succeed. The vines beneath Jake's boots moved like they were alive. Each step on the living bridge sent a gentle pulse through the ground. He could feel the jungle responding to their presence. The silence around them was deep, yet it felt filled with invisible eyes. Rixika led the way, her balance perfect even as the bridge swayed. She didn't look down once. Her focus stayed forward. Jake followed carefully, arms slightly out for balance. Below them, the glowing river shimmered with soft golden waves. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The further they walked, the thinner the bridge became. Now vines crisscrossed in tight knots beneath their feet. Rixika paused and raised a hand. Jake stopped behind her. She lowered herself to a crouch and touched one of the vines. Her ears twitched. "They're testing us," she said. "The bridge is aware. It knows you carry the bond." Jake looked at her nervously. "Will it hold?" She stood and nodded. "Slowly, only if we walk without fear. The moment you doubt, it may unravel beneath you." Jake exhaled and took the next step. His mind filled with thoughts of falling, but he pushed them aside. One foot in front of the other. That was all he could do. Rixika's pace stayed calm and steady. Her movements flowed like she belonged to the jungle. After what felt like an hour, they reached the other end. The living bridge opened into a wide platform made of stone and root. At the center stood a figure wrapped in glowing robes. Her face was hidden by a veil of white vines. She didn't move until they stepped closer. "You bring echo where it should not return," the oracle said in a voice soft as wind. Rixika bowed slightly. Jake stood frozen. The oracle turned her head toward him. Though her face was covered, he felt her stare. The human jumped into the pool and awakened what? Sleeps. Rixika stepped forward. "He carries the bond." The heart root pulsed. The sacred weapon responded to his touch. The oracle raised her hand and pointed toward Jake. "Come forward," she said. Jake hesitated, then walked to her slowly, his grip on the spear tightening. She extended her hand toward him, but didn't touch. Instead, her fingers hovered just above his chest. A soft hum filled the air. The vines at her feet began to glow brighter. "You carry a strange signal," she whispered. "Not of Yukari blood." "But not foreign either," Jake blinked. "What does that mean?" The oracle slowly lowered her hand. "You are not just human anymore. The pool did more than bond. It changed your core. The jungle marked your soul." Rixika's eyes widened slightly. "He has been rewritten?" The oracle nodded. "The pool is not just sacred. It is ancient memory. It saw him and responded. Now he holds echoes of Yukari before the stars. He is both outsider and ancestor." Jake felt dizzy. "So what happens now?" he asked. The oracle turned to Rixika. "You must protect him. The council will not understand. They will call him danger. If he falls into their hands, they will destroy him out of fear." Rixika lowered her head slowly. "Then we go into exile." The jungle around them dimmed. Again, the light from the river below faded into darkness. The oracle stepped back. "You have until the next moon rise. After that, the searchers will come. And they will not ask questions." Her body slowly blended into the roots behind her. Jake stared at the empty space where she had stood. Rixica touched his arm. "Come, we must move." They turned and walked back into the narrow vines. This time, the bridge didn't shake. The jungle had heard the oracle. It now accepted their path. As they crossed back, Rixica kept her voice low. "You are now more than you were. But that means danger will follow." Jake nodded. "I didn't ask for any of this. I just wanted to swim." She allowed herself a small smile. Sometimes fate begins with foolish steps. When they returned to the heart-root chamber, Jake felt something shift in the air. Roots around the tree had moved, forming a spiral leading down into the earth. Rixica's tail twitched. "It gives us shelter," she said. "But only if your heart stays true." Jake took the first step down. The roots glowed beneath his feet, guiding the way. Rixica followed him, her blade ready. Above them, the jungle shivered again. A different sound now came through the leaves. Not birds, not beasts, but metal. The council's hunters had begun their march. Asterisk, the tunnel beneath the heart-root twisted, like a spiral carved by nature and memory. Roots pulsed with soft amber light, illuminating the way with just enough glow to guide their steps. Jake moved slowly, unsure whether the air was warm or simply alive around him. Rixica followed behind, always watching his back. They descended for what felt like an hour. The deeper they went, the quieter the world became. Even the sound of their breathing felt distant. Rixica touched the roots every few minutes, muttering soft phrases that Jake couldn't understand. Her words sounded ancient and heavy. Jake's mind raced. The oracle had called him both outsider and ancestor. He didn't know how to accept that. He wasn't a warrior. He wasn't a leader. But somehow the jungle had marked him. The pool had changed him. And now he was hunted for something he didn't even want. The tunnel opened into a large underground chamber, with glowing stones forming circular patterns across the ground. Strange symbols moved across the walls, shifting like they were alive. In the center sat an altar carved from living root. Rixica stepped forward and bowed her head. "This place is older than our history," she said. "Few Yukari even know it still exists. It only appears when the heart-root chooses to reveal it." Jake looked around, his voice hushed. "What is it?" Rixica placed her hand on the altar and closed her eyes. "A sanctuary and a test." As she said the words, the floor beneath Jake lit up. A circle formed around his feet. The symbols swirled faster and began to rise like smoke. He gasped and looked to Rixica, but she held her position. "Don't run, let it see you," she said calmly. Jake stood still. The light surrounded him. His heart pounded, but he didn't move. The glowing energy wrapped around his chest, arms, and head. For a moment, he saw visions again. The jungle burning. Warriors fighting under green skies. Rixica bleeding and reaching toward him. Then everything stopped. The light faded. Jake stumbled back. Rixica caught him before he fell. Her hands steadied him, and her face stayed close to his. It accepted. "You," she said. "The test is complete. You are now bound fully to the echo." Jake tried to speak, but only managed a nod. The chamber around them pulsed once, and a doorway opened in the far wall. Rixica turned toward it. "That leads to the surface. But not where we entered. A different path, safer, for now." Jake took a breath and followed her, still shaking from what he had seen. They walked through the new tunnel in silence. The path was narrower, the walls smoother. The glow from the roots followed them. After some time, the tunnel opened into a quiet glade hidden beneath a canopy of thick leaves. A stream flowed through it, clean and glowing faintly blue. Rixica knelt at the stream and filled her hands with water. She drank deeply, then looked up at Jake. "This is the halfway mark," she said. "From here, we go to the Ghost Plateau. It's the last place the Council's eyes do not reach." Jake sat beside her and drank too. The water cooled his body and cleared his mind. For the first time, he felt something inside him stir. Not fear, not confusion. Something stronger. Purpose. He looked at Rixika. "Why do you trust me?" She met his gaze without hesitation. "Because you never asked for power. You only acted when it mattered." They rested in the glade for only a short while. Rixika stood and signaled it was time to move again. Jake followed, spear in hand. The jungle above them rustled gently, and the light through the trees danced on the ground. It was peaceful, but they both knew it wouldn't last. As they hiked up the steep hills beyond the glade, a strange sound came from behind them, a deep like metal grinding stone. Rixika's ears twitched, and she turned fast. "Hunters," she whispered. "They're closer than I thought." Jake looked back but saw only trees. Rixika drew her blade and motioned for him to move faster. They ran through the trees, ducking branches and jumping roots. The hum grew louder. A flash of light burst behind them. Something had fired. Jake nearly tripped, but Rixika grabbed his arm and pulled him forward. They burst through a wall of vines and slid down a mossy slope. At the bottom, an old stone structure stood in the earth. Its doors were cracked open, dark and waiting. Rixika pointed, "Inside, now." Jake didn't argue. He rushed through the doors and into the shadows. The doors slammed behind them just as another shot echoed through the jungle. Dust fell from the ceiling as Rixika pressed her back to the door, breathing hard. "They're here," she said again. "But we're not done yet." The inside of the old stone structure was darker than night. Jake blinked several times before the glow of the jungle faded from his eyes. The air inside was cool and dry, different from the damp forest outside. His footsteps echoed against the floor as he followed Rixika deeper into the shadows. They moved quickly through a long hallway carved from smooth black stone. Strange murals decorated the walls, faded but still visible. They showed tall beings with glowing skin, kneeling before a tree made of fire. Jake reached out to touch one of the carvings, but Rixika stopped him with a sharp shake of her head. "Do not touch the walls," she whispered. "This place is sacred even to the jungle. The old spirits sleep here. If they wake, they may not remember mercy." Jake pulled his hand back and nodded. They continued forward, the hallway curving until it opened into a massive chamber lit by green fire. In the center of the chamber stood a platform, and on it sat an orb floating above a pedestal. Rixika approached it slowly, her steps careful and silent. Jake followed behind her, eyes locked on the glowing sphere. "What is that?" he asked. "A memory core," she replied. "It holds pieces of our ancestors." She extended her hand toward the orb, and it responded by glowing brighter. Sparks floated in the air like fireflies. Jake stood at her side, watching as the orb spun faster. Images formed above it, ghostly visions of ancient Yakari warriors, of battles, of a jungle burning beneath alien skies. Then the image changed. It showed a human face. Jake stepped back in shock. The man in the vision looked just like him but older. His eyes were golden. He stood beside a Gyori woman, holding her hand before the same heartroot Jake had touched. Rixika turned toward him slowly. "That's not just memory, that's blood. That human is your ancestor. Somehow your line carries Yukari essence. That is why the bond formed." Jake struggled to speak. His mouth opened, but no words came out. The orb dimmed again, the vision fading like smoke. Rixika stepped down from the platform, her face pale and unreadable. "This changes everything," she said. "You are not an accident. You are the echo of something long hidden." Jake's heart pounded. "Does this mean I was meant to come here?" Before she could answer, the chamber shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. The green flames flickered. A loud crack echoed through the walls. Rixika drew her blade instantly and motioned for Jake to stand behind her. "They've breached the outer wall," she said. "We have little time." Jake grabbed the spear and moved with her as she rushed toward a door at the back of the chamber. It was half covered in vines, but opened with a hard push. They stepped into another corridor, this one narrower and colder. The sounds of the jungle were gone now, replaced by metal footsteps above them. "They're coming through the top," Rixika said. "We need to reach the other exit. It connects to a hidden cliffside path." Jake didn't ask how she knew that. He simply ran with her, his feet pounding the stone, his lungs burning as they moved faster. Suddenly a panel in the wall exploded beside them. A hunter in black armor rolled through the smoke, spear in hand. Rixika leapt without hesitation. Her blade met his weapon in a clash of sparks. Jake ducked behind a pillar as two more entered the corridor. He raised the energy spear and pressed the button on its grip. A golden arc shot from the tip, striking one attacker in the chest and sending him crashing backward. Rixika sliced through. The second with a spinning move that made Jake freeze in awe. Blood splattered the walls, but she did not stop. Her breath was calm, her stance perfect. "Move," she said, and Jake obeyed. They kept running, past the bodies, deeper into the structure. Every few steps, they heard more sounds behind them. More hunters. More danger. Finally they reached a narrow stairway carved into the rock. Wind blew through it, bringing in light. Rixika pointed upward. "That's our exit." Jake didn't hesitate. He ran up the stairs two at a time. At the top, they burst through a crack into open air. The view was stunning. They stood on a ledge high above the jungle, with clouds beneath their feet. Vines dangled from the cliff edge. A narrow path stretched across the mountain ridge. Rixika took the lead again, her body tense but controlled. Behind them, the old temple shook one last time before part of it collapsed inward. The hunters had reached the core, but the bond's memory was already carried forward in Jake's blood. And Rixika's blade was still sharp. The narrow path winding across the mountain ridge was slick with mist and vines. One wrong step would lead to a fall too far to survive. Jake pressed close to the stone wall, moving carefully behind Rixika. She walked like she had done this 100 times. Her confidence gave him courage. Below them, the jungle stretched for miles, glowing faintly under the early morning light. Far to the east, smoke rose where the temple had collapsed. The hunters were surely searching the ruins now. They would know soon that Jake and Rixika had escaped. "We must reach the Watcher's Peak," Rixika said without looking back. "That is where the jungle reveals final truth. If your bond is pure, the echo will crown you. If not, it will erase you." Jake didn't ask what that meant. He already knew the jungle didn't deal in half measures. They walked for an hour before, reaching a stone staircase carved into the mountain face. Each step was covered in moss and lined with strange symbols. Jake ran his fingers across them as they climbed. Some felt warm. Others pulsed under his hand like quiet heartbeats. At the top, a flat circle opened before them. In its center stood a single tree, short and silver with no leaves. Its bark shimmered like polished crystal. Around it, 12 standing stones formed a ring. Rixika stepped into the circle and motioned for Jake to follow. "This is the heart of memory," she sighed. "The final voice of the echo lies here. You must enter the circle alone. If it accepts you, I will remain by your side. If not, I will leave before the jungle takes you." Jake gave her one look, then nodded. He stepped into the stone ring. As soon as his foot touched the moss-covered floor, the sky above shifted. The clouds stopped moving. The air became heavy and still. The tree's bark brightened. The 12 stones lit up with golden fire. Jake stood at the center and closed his eyes. Something reached into him, not physically, but deeper than thought. He felt his memories pulled forward. His childhood on Earth, the jump into the sacred pool. Rixika's blade defending him. Her voice calling his name in battle. A voice not his own echoed inside him. It was ancient and full of weight. You are not Yukari, yet you carry us. You are not jungle-born, yet you touched our heart. Speak now. Why did you enter our sacred water? Jake opened his mouth and answered the only way he knew how. I didn't come to steal. I didn't come to fight. I came because I was lost, and what I found was something worth protecting. The fire on the stones rose higher. The silver tree began to bloom. Tiny golden leaves grew from its limbs. The air trembled with power. Outside the ring, Rixika dropped to one knee. Her eyes shimmered with tears she didn't let fall. She whispered softly, "He is chosen. The jungle has remembered him." The sky cleared above, revealing a full circle of light around the sun. The echo had given its final sign. Jake opened his eyes as the tree reached full bloom. A golden leaf drifted down and landed in his hand. It melted into his skin, leaving a faint mark in the shape of a spiral. The fire around the stones vanished. The jungle exhaled in silence. He stepped out of the circle and looked at Rixika. She stood tall now, wiping her face with the back of her glove. No words were needed. She walked to him and placed her hand over the mark on his arm. "You carry us now," she said. "You are no longer outsider." Jake smiled. "And you're no longer alone." Together they walked away from the peak. The jungle moved with them. The wind shifted to carry their scent away from the hunters. The roots beneath the soil guided their steps. The echo had made its choice. Far below, the council waited with fear. They would send more warriors, more machines, more laws. But none of it would stop the bond that had formed in the sacred pool. A human had awakened the jungle's heart. And the Huntress now walked beside him. Their story had begun with a cannonball into forbidden waters, but what followed would echo forever across worlds.